What's up, guys? It's Kenny Soto, back again with another video on all things digital marketing. Today I wanted to talk about a job hunting strategy that's worked for me in the past that got me one of my dream jobs back in 2017 when I just started my career as a digital marketer. And that is the concept of sliding into your employer's DMs. Now, before going into the nitty-gritty details of how I actually succeeded in getting a job at VaynerMedia, one of the best digital marketing agencies out there, I first wanted to give context on why I applied to VaynerMedia and why I took an unconventional route and not just applied via a job board and sent in my resume. For context, when I first started my digital marketing career, I was learning about all these different big name marketers like Seth Godin, Neil Patel, and Gary Vaynerchuk. And Gary Vaynerchuk at the time was one of the people that I became literally obsessed with, where I would see every single piece of content that he published every single day. I watched all of his old content, I read some of his books, and I realized that this is someone I want to work with or work for as close as possible, because I knew if I was exposed to him or his team, I would learn more and I would learn faster in the field of digital marketing. So I started applying for jobs that I was not qualified for. And in hindsight, I think the only reason I actually did this job searching strategy is because I wasn't aware of how unqualified I was when I was applying for these jobs. After about 8 or 9 months of applying to every single position, only having 1 year of digital marketing experience under my belt, not getting any replies, not even getting rejection emails, I realized that I had to take another approach in getting the job that I wanted and working for the team, VaynerMedia. So what I decided to do was use LinkedIn. Back when slide into the DMs wasn't as popular as it is now in 2021, I realized that a lot of people were using the term or the phrase slide into the DMs for only one thing, and that was to pick up chicks on Instagram. But what if you can slide into the DMs on LinkedIn? That was the thought that was going on in my mind. So what I did was I found every single employee that I could find on LinkedIn who worked at VaynerMedia, and I messaged them with this template message. The template message goes, "Hello, first name. I am considering applying to one of the open positions of your team. To make sure I'm a right fit, I wanted to know if I could spare 5 minutes of your time to talk about the company culture. If not, could you possibly point me to the right people to speak to? Kenny Soto." Now, I have to say that at least having this kind of message was better than just saying, "Hey there, I want a job at VaynerMedia. Can you help me?" Because that kind of question is too direct and it's not necessarily taking the other person's time into consideration. Now, with this template message, I messaged about 256 people who were working at VaynerMedia back in 2017. And of those 256 people, 7 of them replied and actually gave me the time of day to help me out. Now, if you think about that in terms of success rate, that's 2.73%. It's not bad, but it's not amazing. And there's definitely better ways of going about doing this. But from those 7 responses that I did receive, I was able to learn more about the company culture. More importantly, I was able to learn more about what was expected of me depending on the role that I was talking about with that person. And lastly, I was able to learn how VaynerMedia promotes people internally. That being that they promote people who go above and beyond their job description. As soon as they get hired, they look for people who are ambitious, who are going to do more than just what's within their job role, who's going to volunteer their time to do extra projects and actually help the client maximize the money that they're spending for the agency services that they're actually paying for. And as far as those 7 responses were concerned, what I was able to do with those 7 responses was to then tailor my message towards the head of recruitment, who then pointed me to the head of HR. And from those two conversations, I was able to actually get an interview at VaynerMedia. Mind you, throughout this whole entire process, I never actually sent my resume until I was able to actually speak to the head of recruitment and the head of HR, who I didn't know who they were until speaking to these people on LinkedIn. And because I did all this groundwork prior, I skipped the applicant tracking system that would have removed my resume in the first place because, again, I was technically not qualified for the jobs that I was applying for. Needless to say, after my interview, which was something that I was actually prepared for, I was able to get a freelance project manager position, which wasn't what I was actually applying for at the time, but there goes a saying that there's a list of jobs that are not promoted on job boards that are still open and available. And these jobs are usually given to people internally or people who are referred by employees. So I was able to basically get a role within that list of undisclosed positions. Now, let's say it's 2021 and I wanted to apply to VaynerMedia again. How would I go about doing it better, saving myself more time and making sure that my chances of success were higher than 2.73% success rate on getting responses via LinkedIn? First things first, I would use the follow feature on LinkedIn as opposed to the connection feature, mainly because I don't want to seem spammy, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one doing this now. This technique was definitely something that a lot of people were experimenting with back in 2017, but I'm pretty sure there are a ton of people sending out massive amounts of spam on LinkedIn now, which is why you have to be more strategic in your approach if you were going to do something similar to what I did. So what I would do is, first things first, figure out what are the 2 to 3 specific roles that I want to apply for, whether that's being a media planner, an account manager, a project manager, someone who's working on the creative side. I would make sure that I have a specific role in mind, or at least 2, and I would make sure I'm qualified for that role, which is something I'll talk about in another video in the future. Once I have the specific role in mind and I know that I'm qualified for that role because I took the time to learn the skills and showcase that I know those skills on a resume and through other forms of content for personal branding, I would then make a specific list of about 40 people. These 40 people would be people who work both in the department that I want to work for, previous employees that worked in that department, and members of HR and recruitment who could get me the interview that I'm looking for after speaking to those other 2 groups of people. The group of people that I would talk to first would be previous employees, not current ones. Why? Because previous company employees are going to be more honest about their experience working at VaynerMedia and what their true feelings are about the company culture and what to expect. You can also ask this about current employees, but their bias or their spin on it will be more positive leaning, and you want to get the bigger picture, both the positive and the negative. What's even better is that by contacting a previous employee, after getting that conversation started, you can ask them to refer you to talk to someone else who's currently working there. And that's kind of thinking about it in terms of a sales funnel, where you're talking to previous employees first, then you're going to get them to actually refer you to current employees, because that introduction via another party is actually going to help you get that conversation started with someone who can actually put you in contact with the recruitment and HR team. After having the same kind of discussion where you're talking about team culture, expectations for the role, what experiences have the current members of the team had, and what does success look like in the role, you can then have the current employees refer you to someone in the recruitment team and the HR team who would then basically get you the interview. And lastly, this may not work for everyone, but me personally, I would also get certain members of VaynerMedia to be on my podcast. Why would I have them on my podcast? Well, it will generally help me with my content game, making sure that I'm getting more content out for my podcast from experts in marketing. But at the same time, after recording that podcast, I can then set up the favor of, hey, thanks for being on my show. I have been actually applying to VaynerMedia for this specific position, whatever it may be, and I wanted to know if you knew anyone who can give me more context on the role, who's actually on that team, and who should I speak to about moving further in the job search and interview process. And all this is just to say that obviously you should be qualified for the job that you're applying for. You should do as much research as you possibly can about the company you're going to work for. And it never hurts to reach out to people online without being annoying or cringy to see if you can get as much context as possible and you can stand out as much as possible when looking for your dream job. Now, I would like to hear from you. What are your thoughts about sliding into your employer's DMs? Do you think it's a waste of time? Do you think that there are better ways of doing it? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks again for watching my YouTube video. I really appreciate your time and I hope you have a great week. Bye. Because previous employees are going to be more honest about the current, because previous company